Week 2. Here's how we started. For those of you who didn't listen to the first edition of the Friday show last week, we're going to go over things to watch, and then we'll have our competition with some of the bets that we're making via this podcast. So let's start out with the headliner. So, what are you watching? What do you have your eyes on this week as we head into week 2 in the NFL?
Yeah, so the most interesting game to me this week is Seahawks-Lions.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Why? When?
I thought you were definitely going Patriots-Dolphins with what you're watching.
Lions-Seahawks is very interesting to me because you have the Lions coming off such a big emotional win, such a huge performance against the Chiefs on the road, Super Bowl champion, prime time. We win it. We're a legitimate team. And then you have the Seattle Seahawks who, Ben and Sheil are picking us to win the division. We're feeling ourselves a little bit, coming off a nice surprise season last year, and then just absolutely face plant against the Rams. And then you go and you look and the Seahawks were better in terms of offensive EPA per drive than the Lions were, right? Like these are two teams where I feel like the Seahawks were 13th and the Lions were 15th. The Lions' performance, you got to remember all the way back to Thursday. It's been a while now. But the Lions' performance against the Chiefs, I thought was far from comprehensive, right? Was far from emphatic. And then the Seahawks' performance against the Rams, on watching it back, I mean, Matthew Stafford was just absolutely in his bag, especially on third down. Like they just lost to a very good quarterback, and it spiraled because of their injuries. But now here we are. The Seahawks are 0-1, and I think they're a little bit better than that score bug indicated. And the Lions are 1-0, and I think they're probably still a little bit worse than that score bug indicated. But you and I know the reality of things. 0-2 is the death knell in the NFL. A yearly reminder as we approach week 2, 10% of teams, 1 out of every 10 teams that starts 0-2 makes the playoffs. That's from StatHead data over the course of decades, right? If you start 0-2, your season's not over, but you're in such a hole that it really takes quite a bit to dig your way out.
Now, hold on. There's one caveat here that, I have the nerd card, so I need to play it here. You have the hipster card. Nerds remind everybody, and they'll do it after this weekend, this year, that it's not really starting out 0-2. It's kind of like if you lose back-to-back games at any point in the season, your odds of making the playoffs go down significantly. So that's what the nerds will tell you. I just needed to get that in there as the caveat because we got a lot of nerds who listen to this show. It's not just all hipsters.
Other nerd shout out that I had in my bag, and I was worried you were preempting me, is that obviously a lot of that 0-2 data came in a 16 playoff structure. We're now in a 7-team per conference playoff structure. So there also is an easier window. But in general, I think that if you ask the average fan, hey, you started out 0-2, can you still make the playoffs? Most fans will be like, heck yeah. And it's kind of like, dude, it's tough. It's an uphill climb.
Yeah.
Seahawks injury updates. Tackle Charles Cross, their star young left tackle, was not placed on injured reserve. He is, however, not practicing with a toe injury. They have signed Jason Peters in free agency, which it's not good when you're signing Jason Peters in free agency. That is a bad place to be. Jason Peters, great player. Honestly, I was positive he'd retired. I didn't even know he was still doing the thing. I don't know why he's still doing the thing.
Because he's Team CTC like I am. Cash them checks. If someone's going to go pay you to play a little football, go play a little football. You can't be doing this in 10 years. Maximize
Peters,
it.
Man, people will pay you to endorse their products and hop on podcasts. There's other ways.
We'll pay you to podcast on Extra Point Taken, 100%. I'm saying that without getting any approval.
Right tackle Abe Lucas, he actually was placed on injured reserves. He's out for 4 games. So they expect to not have starting tackles in this game. Boye Mafe did not participate on Thursday practice. He's one of their edge rushers as well. So they're banged up. They're hoping to get Devon Witherspoon back in this game, though. And they desperately need that, right? I think Tariq Woolen struggled a little bit in week 1. They gave up over 100 receiving yards each to Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua, which, man, you can't be giving up 100 receiving yards each to Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua. That's not how it goes. And so it's a huge game for the Seahawks. And it's a bit of a heat check game for the Lions, playing a team that was a postseason team again last season, playing a team that I still expect to be a solid team this year. The Lions can beat the Chiefs on the road and then beat the Seahawks at home, even if it doesn't look perfect. I think we talked about this with the Eagles and Philly special last night, where it's like, hey, every team has stuff to clean up after 2 weeks. But if you escape 2-0 and you're winning against some good opponents, you can't ask for much more. So to me, this is a really, really important, interesting game. I'm not yet entirely sure how to calibrate to the Lions. I'm not yet entirely sure how to calibrate to the Seahawks. This game's going to help me out.
Yeah, it is going to be a good one. It's one in my picks column on the Ringer. I probably had a really hard time because I'm looking at, I'm going, we talked about it on, I think, the Monday show, that how many quarterbacks without their starting offensive tackles are going to be able to operate at a high level. Not many. I don't think Geno Smith is one of those unless those backups come in and play really well. Now, he still has the wide receivers. Your point's a good one. I'm glad because we forget that Thursday night game feels like it was about 7 years ago. And I'm just looking at it here, like the success rate of the Lions offense in that game against the Chiefs and the Seahawks in that game that they lost to the Rams is almost identical offensively. So if you're just looking at it on a snap to snap basis, like you mentioned, EPA per drive offensively, they had very similar performances in week one. So now we're spinning it forward. I thought both these offenses were going to be really good coming into the season. The Lions, I'm pretty much still there. The Seahawks, I'm more worried because they do have those injuries. So yeah, 5.5. It's 4.5 now. I think we opened at 5.5. Was a little too big for me. I'm with you. So I actually took the Seahawks plus 4.5 in this game. I don't feel like amazing about it, but I think you're right. We'll learn a little bit more about both these teams as we say, hey, is there a sleeper in the NFC?
Historically, teams that come off of double-digit losses in week one, that's the Seahawks, the Bears, and the Giants, I want to say, are I think there's one more team that I'm not remembering, but I know those. Bengals, thank you. Those teams historically perform quite well against the spread in week two because there's just a natural big public overreaction. I agree that 5.5 line was too big. I bought the 5.5 line early in the week. 4.5, I think, is more appropriate, especially Lions home opener. But like a Seahawks win would not surprise me. This is still a good football team that's just got to kind of steady the ship a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. That'll be, it feels like the Seahawks, I'm probably overreacting, but it feels like the Seahawks have a lot on the line already in week two. To your point, some teams can come back from 0-2. I don't know that they're going to be a team that you feel great about coming back from 0-2. All right. Should I take the low-hanging fruit or should I zag here? Because I did think you were going to talk Dolphins Patriots. So I was like, I'll have another one in my pocket here. So I don't know. You want to give me any guidance?
Which one's the low-hanging fruit?
The Dolphins. I think Dolphins. I'll go. Let's do Dolphins Patriots. I think this is a great game. This is a fun game.
Such a good game.
You did a little give the little play sheet plug here for our listeners.
Did the play sheet on Tua's performance in week one. Best game I've seen Tua play. I think Tua. I'm a Tua fan now. This is. I would like to see a good performance against the Patriots before I get fully over my skis. But holy smokes, man! Filming against the Chargers was great.
And people can watch that video. How? I mean, come on, you really got to sell it here. Self-promote.
So it's on the Ringer. Well, I don't worry about it, Sheil, because it's on the Ringer YouTube, obviously. But starting this upcoming week 2, the play sheet will go directly to your Spotify feeds on the app. And so if you're a listener on like Apple Podcasts or some other inferior podcast listening app, thank you Spotify, my employer. Then you should go to the YouTube and you should watch it there. But if you listen on Spotify, then the show will come directly to your feed and it'll be a video pod in your Spotify app. So
on this feed,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if you're driving, you can only listen. Don't watch. That's bad. So hold on to it, wait for it, but then you can watch it on YouTube or on the Spotify app.
When you're doing, you're in bed, you're doing a little doom scrolling. You're like, I shouldn't be doing this. I feel guilty. What am I doing? Just read a book, go to bed. You know what? Just go watch the play sheet. That'll make you feel good. That is a positive, energetic guy. No, I'm talking to our audience.
Doom scroll.
Yeah, I'm talking to our audience. I don't do that. I'm a grown up. I've thrown all those habits out the trash. Not all of them. Some of them. All right.
That's it. I'm a grown up is a very interesting, because my behaviors, my tendencies. A very, very interesting way of framing that there.
So Ben talked about the Dolphins offense. Everybody loved the Dolphins offense, and rightfully so. How could you not love what you saw from the Dolphins offense in week one? Tua played great. Mike McDaniel was amazing. Tyreek Hill looked like the best pass catching weapon in the NFL. Everything worked. They went up and down the field, explosive plays of 10 plus yards. You saw it all. Now, what are you going to do for an encore against a defense that looked really good? I thought in week one, the Patriots played well against the Eagles. Some of their rookies, I'm not letting the hipsters take Keon White. I decided, by the way, Solak, because I thought he was phenomenal in this game. And I know the hipsters are going to try to claim him as this like under the radar guy. No, you didn't discover him. He's mainstream now. Keon White, he's so mad.
The hipsters are just this little like shadowy, slender man, strong man that you just get to put yourself against as like, no, actually, I figured out Keon White was good. All of us are just like, wow, good film. That's nice. Nobody's so nefarious the way you build this out.
I love it. I struck a nerve. All right. Keon White, Patriots rookie, second round pick. Really good in week one against the Eagles. Offensive tackles. I thought Christian Gonzalez, the corner, first round pick. He looked the part in that game. Yeah. So now we get this like we're going to get one of two things. Either we're going to be saying after this game, holy cow, take the Dolphins seriously. They're doing it. Mike McDaniel did have a plan B. Tua looks amazing. Look at what they just did to the Patriots. Or it's going to be a Bill Belichick love fest on Sunday night where, whoa, slow down all that Dolphins love. Look at this game plan Belichick came up with to slow down the Dolphins and now put some respect on his name. They're 1-1 with a hard-fought loss, and they beat the Dolphins in week 2. So I think the narratives are going to be fun coming out of this game. Now, a few things to keep in mind. Teron Armstead was a limited practice participant on Thursday, I believe. So we'll see if the Dolphins left tackle, if he comes back in this game or not. I was looking, Ben, last year at Tua's performance against the Patriots. Now it was week 1, but he went 23 for 33, 270 yards and a touchdown, was sacked 3 times. Then I was looking at, all right, let's look at this Mike McDaniel Belichick matchup. They've obviously played 2 times last year. Tua had the 4th best success rate of any quarterback against the Patriots last season. And guess who was 5th? Teddy Bridgewater. In that week 17 game before he got injured.
It was the only good Teddy game of the whole season with the Dolphins.
Very strange. So, McDaniel did fine. Like, McDaniel was not shook by Belichick and going up against this very good Patriots defense last year. So we'll see what I'm kind of leaning Dolphins here. I sort of think they're going to keep it rolling. I watched that Vikings-Eagles Thursday night game and go, okay, maybe I shouldn't have been as encouraged by the Patriots defense because look at what the Vikings just did to the Eagles passing offense. Now, up front, the Patriots rush defense, they're big boys. They absolutely did better against the Eagles offensive line than the Vikings did. So that's going to be something to obviously watch. Can they pressure Tua? Can they just absolutely dominate the run? But man, it's hard to watch that Dolphins offense from week 1 and think like any defense is just going to completely shut them down here, even though we have some evidence of that from the second half of last season. Where are you with this game?
Yeah, I do think that, like, I would need to be like 90% positive that this offense is good enough to beat any coordinator, including Bill Belichick, to say it. And right now I'm like 87. I'm so close to being like, I don't care about Belichick. There's nothing you can do about this. Dolphins -3, Dolphins -90. Like, here we go, baby. We're living. I'm really close to that. I can't. It's week 2. If we were like a few more weeks in, I'd feel okay with it. The thing is, like, historically, Belichick's been good at, like, okay, take away what your offense does best, and like he's really been good at like doubling wide receiver ones, and okay, we'll eliminate Tyreek Hill. But this offense has shown that it's perfectly capable of just running through Jalen Waddle. Like, Waddle is such an important player in this game, even if he doesn't end up producing super high, because just his existence precludes Belichick from deploying like the familiar wide receiver one double 85 game plans that we're used to him seeing. Belichick, historically, really good at stopping these play action based offenses. They don't need play action to work, right? Tua's numbers as a non-play action passer, even last season, were among the league's best. Like, it's the threat of play action, the idea of play action. If you're going to be man heavy, they're going to beat you with motion. They tried to be a zone team in the second game last season, and they shouldn't have the horses for it. Like, if you're going to put Jawan Bentley on the field, you can't really be a zone team and defend the middle of the field that reliably. If you do, it's like on the heroic back of Kyle Duggar and Adrian Phillips. You can even argue like the Marte Mapu pick is a big part of like the philosophy of like, all right, we have to beat this team. They're in our division. There's just so much. They put so much on you, and you can be perfect too. And then Tua will just be perfect, and Tyreek will be perfect, and it won't matter. So I think the Dolphins offense is powerful enough to run away with this game. I'm just like 1 or 2 confidence points below being able to like fully say it with my chest. So it's a very interesting game. I do think it's going to be Dolphins by a lot of points. Patriots trying to throw the way back into it, and they can't. But I'm happy to wait and see on it.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm with you there. I'm not saying it with full confidence. There's no outcome that would surprise me, but I do like the Dolphins -3 in that game on the road in New England. All right, Monday morning storyline is the next category. Ben, what do you have? What are we going to be talking about? What's the big narrative? What are the talking head shows leading with Monday morning? What do you got?
Yeah. So my week 1 headline was $275 million man. I said Burrow is going to dominate these Browns, going to throw the ball over the yard, and he's making more money than Deshaun, and it's going to be a huge win for the Bengals. My week 2 headline, $275 million man? We just run the same copy back, put a question mark on the end of that, get the inflection going up. I was not a good Burrow performance in week 1. The weather was a big part of that. Burrow's first 4 drives, he's not wearing a glove. After the 5th drive, he's got a glove on the throwing hand. There's rain. He's had a couple throws slip out of his hands. He's got smaller hands. This is always a concern. The Browns pass rush dominant entering the game, right? They just won for 4 quarters. I think that when you're game planning that game, you're like, all right, the Browns pass rush might be good, but they won't we can't act like they're going to end our entire game plan. And then pretty quickly they started to do so. But the thing that stood out to me was that Burrow, I do not believe is back from that calf injury. He did not scramble once in this game. No scrambles past the line of scrimmage. 7th lowest time to throw of his career. And critically, they were in shotgun on 96% of their dropbacks, 96% of their plays, excuse me. The highest number of Burrow's career. They didn't want him dropping back from under center. It's just more steps. It's just more on your foot. And you saw every time he was flush from the pocket, the first option he found to throw the football, even if it was a throwaway throw at somebody's feet, he would do so. He was just hucking up 50-50 balls to T. Higgins early in the down. He was just not comfortable on his feet. I don't think Burrow is 100% back from that injury. He does not appear to be so. After the game, he was asked about it. He was like, how did it feel? And he was like, it feels good enough. And then that was it. And that was a good way to answer it. He got to pivot.
That's the classic line. Yeah, I don't want to make an excuse, but I'm not going to lie either. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good enough. And then he did a good job pivoting to we had ways to win, we should have won. There was rain, there was my injury, whatever. Kind of lump it into oh, there's a lot of things that went wrong today. But I think clearly it's affecting him. He now gets a Baltimore Ravens defense that with whom he struggled last season. Before this Browns game, which was the worst game of the last 2 seasons, 2022 plus now. The previous worst 2 games last season were 2 games against the Ravens, 2 games that he played in the regular season. He was better against them in the wild card round, but was still below average in terms of success rate. The chemistry for the Ravens, the recipe, is an extremely low blitz rate. They don't send extra guys. They send them from depth, though. They'll send a linebacker, send a defensive back, drop a defensive end. And you force Burrow to hold on to the ball for a second, to think for a second. You leave 7 in coverage, though, and you try to take away some of those deeper patterns. I was impressed with what I saw Ravens defense in week 1. I thought Justin Matabuki, defensive tackle, is taking a step. I thought Odafe Owe looked like the guy they kind of drafted him to be in the first round off the edge. I think they're going to have a good defensive performance against Burrow, who I don't think is going to suddenly go from being 85% to 100%. And accordingly, I would not be surprised if you get another poor Bengals performance in week 2, another poor Burrow performance. And then that puts the potential of an 0-2 start for the Bengals. Like we just said, a bad place to begin, especially in a tough division. And some questions about why are we playing Burrow right now if he clearly can't execute the offense the way that he usually does? And so for me, headline on the Bengals, if they struggle again, 2 consecutive games of really bad offensive production, I think it's going to start to ask them, okay, why is it happening? What's going on?